Not your ass. You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers.
Oh, good evening, friends. It's Friday, which means it's time once again for another enlightening episode of Observations on Roads to Liberty, part of the Think Liberty Network. That's think-liberty.com for all of your liberty posting needs. Think-liberty.com or swing on by Roads, the number 2, liberty.com. Pick up a t-shirt. If we get over $500 sold before the end of the fiscal year, Ben has to file taxes, and annoying Ben with tax paperwork is its own reward. Once again, joining us tonight is one of our favorite people, Lyman Bishop of Hoplite Armor. We're going to talk about the political situation in the country right now, secession, how the liberty movement can take everything that's going on in the world in stride right now, and check in to see what's new over there at Hoplite. Lyman, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, got a little bit of the crud. One of the kids picked something up at school and brought it home, and man, I'm just having a hard time talking, but we'll get through this hour. I got a little tea.
Going around. I'm nursing a surgery. I've got to keep my arm elevated. I had a surgery on my arm that was supposed to be super simple, but the damn thing swelled up on me, so I'm over here nursing it.
God, everybody's just taking it this week, man. So
look at here, dude. I'm getting older. I'm falling apart.
Yeah, I know the feeling sometimes. I told my my coworker the other day I came in looking pretty haggard, and he's like 23, 24, something like that. He's like, man, you look like shit. And I said, I feel like shit. And let me tell you, man, I've been around the world, traveled to a lot of different places, and I'll tell you one piece of life advice that you should probably write this down. I said, okay, you ready for this? Don't get old. It sucks. Wouldn't recommend it.
If only. Believe me, I'm a bit ahead, so I can give you a little more insight, but I won't.
Got to keep some secrets to yourself, you know. You got to keep them. Got to keep them young kids guessing.
It's nothing you won't figure out in a little bit of time.
Yeah, no shit. So anyways, yeah. So let's just jump right into it. The last time we talked was I think right after the election the last time, and you said you were still still on the secession thing and putting in a lot of work with people in your area and in other states and even in some provinces of Canada. So why don't you just fill us in on how that's been going, and have you made any headway?
Well, I continue to work on things in the background. Not a whole lot I'm doing with other people because I'll tell you, I have my reservations about whether or not people are ready to hear what needs to be said. I attended what they call a Liberty meeting up here. They have the weekly meeting, and there was a guy there speaking, General Lely, who I've wanted to hear speak for a long time. I've wanted to meet the guy for over 10 years, and I was so disappointed when I heard this guy talk. He started off okay talking about TSA and, wanting to get rid of that. But then his solution was to do what they do in Israel and start profiling people and grilling people. And like, my God, man, none of these people get it. And I could tell that the crowd there, I mean, if ever there was a gathering of boomers, that was it. And I walked out of the meeting 30 minutes into it. It was a 2-hour meeting. I split because I just knew there was no way these people were ready to hear what I had to say. And maybe that'll time. But I do have my reservations. And so, what I've been doing is putting together all the things in the background that I might case for secession. And, there's a lot there. And we can talk about all that, essentially. You might call it a new Declaration of Independence outlining in the same way that they outlined the offenses of the king. I've outlined the offenses of our federal government. And I don't really need to tell you what those are because but touch on it, right? I mean, some very simple things have to do with ongoing constitutional abuses, first and foremost. One thing I'm really upset about and that I continue to be upset about is the idea of no-knock raids. Never has there been such an affront to freedom and the Constitution as this nonsense. We were sold on it in the 80s with the idea that we needed this for terrorists and for hostage negotiations, but that's hardly what they're going after. They're going after anybody and everybody for any kind of stupid reason they can think of. I forget the case. I posted about it a while ago. There was a woman in some city where the city owned or otherwise had interest in the utility company, and she was late on her bill, and they sent a SWAT team in to evict this woman or whatever, shut off her, whatever the hell they were doing. I don't even know. But they sent a SWAT team in. And that's just the most ridiculous damn thing I've ever heard of in my life. And it's every day now. What is it? We're up to 60 to 80,000 SWAT raids in this country a year. That's unacceptable. And anybody that's taken part in that had really better take a hard look at their life choices and get on the right side of history, because it's just disgusting, quite honestly. And I have a hard time tolerating it, and which is why I should go ahead and tell you. You may have already seen me post about this. I'm about to shift gears in some of what I'm doing. I'm going to keep Hoplite running, but I'm going to start building and selling fortress homes, reinforced concrete walls, doors and windows, heavy duty steel shutters, and whatever kind of trips and traps you want to put in there. But I'm not having it. I am not having it. My dream is to have it set up in such a way that I can trap any fools try to kick down my door, sitting there in my robe, sitting coffee, pushing buttons, making them suffer. And that's how I'll do it.
Yeah, we kind of went into that the last time that we talked, was the idea of a fortress home. I think it was just kind of an idea that was percolating in your head at the time, but it sounds to me like you've kind of laid some groundworks, maybe pulled up some blueprints or something.
I've started to drop some blueprints, and I've started to team up with people that have the necessary skills. A contractor friend of mine from Utah is going to be moving up here to Montana, helping me build these things. We're probably going to break ground in spring. I'm still eyeballing a couple different pieces of land, but I'm in a position where I can, I can get the bank loans I need. I can do all of that sort of necessary paperwork and pass through the filter. So now it's just a matter of, waiting for the right opportunity. And I'm constantly looking. In fact, in the background, my computer's got several links pulled up of different properties I'm looking at, and that's the direction I think I want to go. I'm hoping to buy a big enough piece of land where I can build 6 or a dozen of these things and end up in one myself.
Yeah, that sounds like something that's really interesting. Speaking since you brought up banks, this move that the IRS is going towards, the Biden administration wants to keep tabs on all bank accounts over $600, ostensibly to keep millionaires and billionaires from hiding assets or tax evasion or whatever. But $600 is a pretty low threshold for millionaires and billionaires. So know that it's not targeting the people with an army of accountants and tax lawyers and God knows what else in order to jump through the tons of the 3-ring circus of loopholes that our country's tax code is. It's for people like me and people like you and just the regular, normal, everyday folk who just go and crank out their 9 to 5 or whatever and just want to have their family and be left the hell alone. That's who the real target of all of this is. And if anybody thinks otherwise, they're either delusional or they're too blinded by their own partisanship to see otherwise. So with the $600 IRS monitoring thing that they're going towards, there's also the rampant inflation that's going on in our country right now. I think the stat that I saw was like 25 to 30% of all dollars ever created have been created in the past year and a half, which is unreal to me. And then you also are moving into the possibility, I know that the Bank of England has openly talked about it, and I know that our people behind the scenes have got to be talking about it too. The idea of a digital dollar, digitizing the currency and doing away with hard cash so that even if you wanted to pull all of your money out of the banks for when the negative interest rates come in and they start trying to monetize the debt, you won't be able to because there will be no such thing as physical cash anymore. So there's like this perfect storm brewing of anybody who wants to do anything that requires even a minuscule amount of money to do something that the government might consider to be wrong thing, something like what you're doing, or if I wanted to, buy a mill and start a small boutique gun parts company or whatever the hell it is out there, they're going to say that's an unauthorized transaction. So, barring some type of divorce going on in the country where we go our separate ways, amicably or otherwise, how do you feel things are going to move forward if one or all of these financial instruments that they're trying to put out there come to pass?
Well, so one thing that they've done is hire doubled up on the number of auditors that they've got, whatever the figure is. They've hired a ton of more people to come in and start, picking everybody apart. Which, quite honestly, let's step back to World War One. That's when this tax was put into place. Income tax did not exist prior to World War One. It was supposed to be, what did they call it, a victory tax. And somebody told me it was actually only supposed to be government employees. I don't know if that's true or not, but at the time it was said that if the tax wasn't repealed at the end of the war, it would surely lead to revolution. But here we are, absolutely tax slaves to the system, a system that is controlled by central banks, not by our own government. The Federal Reserve is federal in no way. That's just a nice little name that they give to it. It's controlled by central banks, the Rothschilds, and all of these people who, quite honestly, should be strung up. And, good old Andrew Jackson, as much of a hard ass as he was, the one thing that he said on his deathbed, what are you most proud of? They asked him. I killed the banks, he said. And that's really where we should be. All of this is ludicrous, quite honestly. The idea that they want to switch to digital currency, I don't know if you saw, but the British, I don't know who the hell it is over their parliament, are talking about the idea of being able to restrict transactions that they don't approve of. Okay, so now, you're getting to see the big picture, and all of this, man, is going to move right into, and it doesn't matter what your belief system is, your mom and dad's Bible has this all written inside it. A global system where you cannot buy or sell without the mark. What's the mark? Well, we'll find out, but everything happening now is definitely the precursor to, without question. And secession really is our only hope of distancing ourselves from it. And I'm going to dig into the Bible here one more time for you. All right. So this is Revelation 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that you may not participate in her sins, and that you may not receive her plagues, for her sins are piled up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities." Now that's referring to what the Bible calls Mystery Babylon. That is us, man. That is modern America, and I've been saying it for a very long time. And when I first started saying it, people weren't ready to hear it, just like a lot of people aren't ready to hear about secession. And sometimes I feel like, Jonah going to Nineveh, only the Ninevites aren't going to listen this time. That's what I'm afraid of. So, I have to tell you, my family fought and bled for this place from the beginning. I have no intention of leaving. But if the people can't get their shit straight, I'm heading to the French Polynesian Islands and disappearing. Or at least I'll send my family there and I'll stay here and die for it. Kind of the plan. They're a bit resistant. We'll see. But I just can't for the life of me understand how people don't see the situation we're in and the fact that there's only one way out. I'm sure I said it last time, but you got 200 years of illegal laws that conflict with the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, both federal and state. And let's talk a minute about state constitutions. These are the legally binding agreements by which states joined the Union in the first place. And in the case of Montana, Article 2, Section 2, we have what's called an abolishment clause. And I can paraphrase it from memory. It says something to the effect that we have the right to operate as a free, sovereign, and independent state We have the right to abolish our form of government anytime we see fit. And that's all I'm talking about. All I've ever said is that we need to uphold the law, the supreme law. And, of course, people, fall on deaf ears always throughout history. It's just the way it goes. So be it. But that's the truth of it. And that's your only way out. That's your only escape, your only hope. Without that, I promise you, you'll be dead in the street or starving or a slave. And that's all you've got. So best people wake up and understand what we're dealing with, make a rational decision to join me in what I'm trying to do here. And in time, you'll see it. But I kind of figure I better build a fortress home before I think about it. Quite honestly.
Yeah. That is the preparation. Honestly, the preparation phase, I think, is a bit past us at this point, or we're closely creeping up on the. Say what?
To a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's time to build a castle.
Yeah, true. And it also kind of depends on where you're at right now. Like where you're at, I think that you've got plenty of time still to make a lot of preparations. Where I'm at, probably also as well. If you live in any of the coastal cities or anything, I think that you're pretty much screwed. So one of the things that we usually end up talking about when I have you on the show is sort of how, like, let's say that enough people get together and they decide that they want to put forth some type of a national divorce, whether it be two separate countries or three or four or five or six or whatever it is that the outcome will inevitably be. What do you think that would look like? And when I say what do you think it will look like, I mean, like, do you think that it would be like a half and half split? Do you think there would be something like a West Coast and an East Coast and a big swath in the middle? Do you think there would be room for maybe a loose confederation? Like the original 13 colonies at the end of the Revolutionary War, we had the Articles of Confederation, and then they put those to the side. Some type of an allyship, or at the very least, agree to disagree and let's just leave each other alone type of situation. What would the ideal Lyman Bishop redrawing of the map look like, and what do you think is the most likely outcome?
Well, you said it yourself. A swath right down the middle from Alaska to Texas would be ideal. I mean, I look at that as God's perfect plan. But how often does man actually follow God's perfect plan? We usually get some tidbit based on our willingness. That's what I'd like to see. In a perfect world, 50 states would secede and leave D.C. with their dead. But sadly, many states are lost forever. End of story. California, New York, lost forever. The list goes on. Lost forever. No hope. Absolutely no hope. I mean, it's just like I just read to you from the Bible. Come out of her. And if you don't do it, I promise you're going to suffer the consequences without question. Now, I think it's really going to look like, I think it might just be little pockets of resistance, quite honestly, because of the people are blind and deaf, as they've always been. That's what I think is going to happen. It's not what I want to happen. Maybe, hopefully, we can get Montana and a couple other states. Maybe, hopefully, we can even get some Canadian provinces. But you can expect an absolute heavy-handed response from the federal government, not on any real genuine principle, but really out of a quest to gather up tax dollars. I mean, that's what the Civil War was about in the first place. It had nothing to do with slavery, it was everything to do with taxes and power and control. And the world lost a lot during that war. The future, our present, suffered as a result. Not that the South was right in slavery or any of those things, but again, that's not what the war was about. So, I don't know. I mean, I have a hard time pinning down any kind of real answer other than what I'm giving you, because there's just too much up in the air. But my hope is that the people will come around, that they'll realize the necessity for these things before it's too late. And at that point, if we can get to that point, then maybe. maybe we can salvage some portion of the republic. But it's going to be dicey. One thing I'll tell you, Montana secedes, we're keeping those damn nukes. I promise you that. We got the largest repository of nuclear weapons in the United States right in my backyard. We are not giving this up, I promise. There's a lot of people in Montana, and I pity any fool that wants to come and challenge that.
Yeah, there's a good chance that is one of the top items on any federal government list of things to keep a hold of. And I think that I've talked to you about this in the past before, and that was actually one of the items that the Soviet Union, when it broke up and it had nuclear silos in its various satellite states, was they said that they would take on the new Russian Federation government would take on all of the sovereign debt that was accrued under the Soviet Union, so long as all of the satellite states would cede control of the nuclear weapons to the new Russian Federation, just so they could keep a handle on them and wouldn't let them get into the hands of like a terrorist organization or anything like that. So that's something that's going to come up. But I sent you a picture earlier today that I'm sure probably got you a little hot under the collar. It was and I don't know, Ben said he had to go pick his daughter up, so I don't think he's going to be around to be able to actually pull it up on the screen for everybody to see. So I'll pull it up here. So it's a picture that was shared by Occupy Democrats, and I'll see if I can hold it up to the screen here. And it is something that I actually got laughed at a couple of years ago for saying was a plan of certain leftist groups, things like PACs and mutual aid networks and everything. And for anybody who couldn't read it there while I had it up on screen, it's a little picture of what looks like a hobo. It says, if just 220,000 work-from-home Democratic voters, less than the population of Williamsburg and Bushwick, moved to Montana needs 60,000, Wyoming needs 75,000, Alaska needs 50,000, and North Dakota needs 35,000, we could flip 8 Senate seats within the next 6 years. This has been a friendly PSA to well-paid, tech-employed millennials who want to make a difference but remain unstrategically clustered near coffee shops in blue states. Now, this is something that has been brought up by a couple of conservative podcast hosts that not this particular scenario, but it's been brought up by guys like Glenn Beck and Dan Bongino and a few other mainstream guys that have said that when you have a deep blue state like California or New York, the way that the Electoral College is structured right now, it doesn't matter if they win 51% of those states or if they win 96% of those states, they get those Electoral College votes. So there is a concerted effort by leftist groups, and I don't mean Democrat groups, I mean leftist groups like Antifa and stuff like that, that are saying that we need to move people into these low density population states like Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, the flyover country, especially the people who can work from home and aren't really sacrificing any type of a job. And then we can just outvote and take full control of the Senate because every single state has 2 senators. Now, I was laughed at by a few people a few years ago for saying that such a thing exists. What bothers me about this is the complete lack of principle that these people have, because if constructing their little utopias was the end goal, if making a change and making a difference was really what they wanted, then the leftists would be the biggest proponents of states' rights, 10th Amendment. They'd be the people who were most on board with things like school choice and things like that, because what they claim to want is to be able to make a difference, but what they really want is control. And that's all that it is. Because if they were really about making a change and constructing their little utopias, they would advocate for states' rights and state sovereignty, and they would build their little utopias in California and Oregon and New York and all those other places and be happy with it. But these people are a political plague of locusts that are rampaging across the country, and they will never be satisfied until they subject everybody else to their ideology. And that is what the end goal really is. It's not enough for them to have their own utopia in their own backyard. They know what's best for you, and by God, they're going to give it to you good and hard. That's what the end goal is. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the event of a national divorce, how do you think it's going to go? Do you think that we're all just going to go our separate ways and be happy? Or do you think that there's going to be a concerted and motivated group of people who are going to go out of their way to infiltrate, subvert, and destroy their neighbors and just basically just take it over, and we'll be back to square one?
Well, I'll tell you this. Those people would never survive Alaska. Not in a million years. You and I would struggle up there. It's a tough place, man. It's no joke. Most of Montana is pretty difficult too. So they're going to have a real hard time. You know, they said it themselves. They like their little coffee shops. Well, you're going to be grinding coffee and filtering it through like a freaking moose fat or something, because it ain't happening. You know, and that's the thing with secession. And this is what I think is really going to appeal to the people of Montana. In Montana, we're very, very tired of people coming here from godforsaken states like that. And in this last year, we've seen a larger influx of these people than ever before. My little valley went from 100,000 people to 160,000 people in the last year and a half. A lot of those are good people coming here, but we get our share of, you know, fruits and nuts from California and all this stuff. And if we secede, we can close borders and we can decide who gets in. And if you come in illegally, we can throw your ass in jail. It's just that simple. So, you know, it's your only hope, and you better act on it sooner rather than later, because, you know, like you say, this is what those people are doing. Now, I went onto the Occupied Democrats page. I found that post and I read some of the comments, and they were talking about how this is what they did. And I forget what it was, Vermont or something. Some of these eastern coastal states, or I guess Vermont's not really coastal, but whatever. You know, where's Bernie Sanders from? Was it Vermont? And because they used him as an example, right? You know, that he was the fruit that was born as a result of that sort of thing, something that they did back in the 60s or 70s or whatever the case was. Of course, these people want to do that, and they think it's for your own good, but they don't realize the path that they're on. I've said it forever. If these people got what they think they want, they'd regret it the next day, because there'd be a boot on their neck. That's where they're going with this. So, you know, sometimes I feel like a voice crying out in the wilderness, right? You know, a single voice out here saying these things. And I know there's a lot of people in Montana that are listening and that agree, but a lot of them are just silent. Run silent, run deep, I hear all the time. Well, whoop de damn do. That ain't going to do you any fucking good. Pardon my, but it's just not. And so the time to step up and be heard, quite honestly, is overdue. And you best be getting on board with it quickly, because they already know who you are. Don't pretend that you can run silent and run deep and Big Brother doesn't know who you are. They got a profile on every single one of you. And your only hope is not to bury your guns or bury your head or pretend it's not happening. Your only hope is to stand up and be heard, and you know, really do whatever it takes to ensure the future of your state. So, secession, it's your only.
Really. Yeah, it's I was talking to some of the guys that are over here in our comment section right now. I was saying to them today that with the possibility of a secession and maybe like a central, Midwest Confederacy that goes, like you said, from Alaska down to Texas, or a new republic, or whatever that that new entity would end up looking like. I said that it's unfortunately, I think, an ironic truism that in order to construct a truly free, small L libertarian society, that society needs to take the most unlibertarian border policy, especially when you have neighbors around all of your sides that are not trying to get in to, say, take advantage of your largesse or anything like that, but you have active saboteurs and subverters and demoralizers that are trying to get in to basically destroy what you've made out of spite. That's what I see when I look at things like that Occupy Democrats post that we were just talking about, is that these people, they almost take a look at the, not necessarily the success, because I can't look at my own life and say that I'm successful. I'm content. They take a look at the contentedness of the salt of the earth, blue collar working man, and it just makes them seethe. They want to subvert it and destroy it almost out of like a jealous spite. It's like, if misery loves company, I think is what they want. And they're so full of themselves with their own self-righteousness that they think that they know how to run your life better than you do, that they will go to any lengths, up to and including uprooting their life from their bougie latte lifestyle in the metropolis and move out to bumfuck Arkansas just to flip a couple of Senate seats. To me, that's insane. That's nuts to me. But to them, it's a winning political strategy. So, like I just said, it's an ironic truism that a free society has to take an unfree border stance just to keep these people out. And unfortunately, I think that is like you were saying, one of those things that certain people just don't want to hear right now.
Well, and let me make the point too, okay? Because I ran for the libertarian. There's a lot about that ideology I agree with, but open borders is not one of them. You give up your national sovereignty. Look what's happening. You got millions of Mexicans and Haitians and everybody else pouring over your border. Do you really think you're going to have a nation in 20 years at that rate? My God, no. You're going to be in a third world country. And so, nifty little ideals like that don't pass through the filter properly, right? They just don't make it. And if that upsets people, I'm real sorry, but sometimes the truth hurts, and that's one of them. Open borders is foolish, and to even consider such a thing is ridiculous to me. And I'll say it to anybody, anytime. And I mean no offense, and maybe I sound kind of stern, but the simple fact of the matter is it's not going to work. It's never worked, and it never will work. And so again, secede, control your borders. It's your only hope. Best you do the calculations, play the mental chess game, get on the right side of history here, because if you don't, you're doomed. Your kids are doomed, and it's not going to take very long for that to come to fruition. This has been brewing for a very long time, and the whole damn thing's about to pop. I mean, quite honestly, can we even accomplish anything in the amount of time that we have? I think more than likely it's going to be rebuilding from the rubble of what once was a United States of America. It's just not going to work. And I'm real sorry, guys. Look, my family's been here from the beginning. We ran a shipping company in the Revolutionary War, delivering arms and ammunition to George Washington. We had a letter of marque to pirate British ships when what the hell is the dipshit's name? The traitor, Benedict Arnold. He went quicker. One of the first things he did was to burn my family's warehouses and docks. You best get your head on straight and see where all this is going. I've been here my family's been here from the beginning. Nobody, it pains to say these. Nobody cares more about these things. I know a lot of people care just as much, But the simple fact of the matter is you need to take account of where we are in history, and you need to act accordingly. And there is only one way through this. And it's just that simple. Otherwise, I promise to be safe. Here's the thing. That same Bible I read from earlier tells you everything that's going to happen. Okay. And you will have global tyranny. And there's no escaping that. And America is pivotal to that. I've said it forever. Literally, I was 19 years old, and I looked around and I saw what was going on. And I said, man, the people in power are either incredibly stupid or they're up to something. And it didn't take long to realize that they're not stupid. They're up to something. What is that something? Well, I'll tell you this. The American middle class is the single most powerful and influential group of people that's ever existed. The powers that be can do nothing as long as we stand in their way. And that is why there has been a concentrated effort to move manufacturing to China or to do all the other things that have harmed the middle class, one hit after the other. And we continue to absorb the hits. In our blindness, we refuse to see things for what they are. But the truth is, that's what's happening. And you best figure it out, and you best act accordingly quickly. But again, maybe too late. I look at a Liberty meeting full of all these people that are in no way ready to hear what I've just said. What I spent the last 30 minutes telling you, these people would have, pissed all over themselves and tried to lynch me for it. They just, they're just not there. And it's so sad to see because, they still want to, wave their flag and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, that was neat in first grade, but guess what, dude? That country's dead. It's already dead. All right. They're keeping it alive. Damn, machine. It's complete bullshit. And this is entirely the result of our alliances with countries that are not our ally. The one they say is our greatest ally. Let me tell you, they are not. And, and we've been picked apart. And all that's left carcass with just a tiny little bit of meat on it. And they're sucking it dry even now. That's what all these stimulus deals are about. That's why they're sucking up trillions. It's like a family who's about to file bankruptcy going out and charging their credit cards for the last little bit that they can on whatever they can matter. It's the same damn thing. That's what's happening now. So, prepare for collapse. It is imminent. You best be preparing, and you best be ready for all of the atrocities that come with it, because they're coming. And that's the terror of it. God willing, maybe some portion of the Republic can be salvaged. And I will give you this bit of hope. All right. And those of you that don't see things the way that I do in terms of that book I just held up, I will tell you, nonetheless, throughout history, whenever God raises up a nation and that nation falls into sin and judgment, God is faithful to always leave a remnant. He always has, and he always will. I believe that that remnant is Montana, or at least part of it. God's perfect plan is that remnant would be a much bigger place. But if history is any indicator, we're going to be lucky to get even that.
Yeah, you said something there about how America, the America that we all, saluted the flag and said the Pledge of Allegiance to has long been dead, and that's something that I talked to Ben about a few weeks ago on our Thursday show. Was after we left Afghanistan in the clusterfuck way that we did, the Taliban posted a picture of some of their soldiers wearing our gear and raising the Taliban flag in an open mockery of the Iwo Jima flag. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble talking. But yeah, and I saw that, and my first reaction was, why am I not more mad at this than I am? Because it got under my collar a little bit. It was like, yeah, I can appreciate, that is some peak PR right there. I had to give them credit. They did a really good job of being a fly in the ointment there. But I'm like, I should be much more angry at this than I am. Why am I not? And then,
we're the fucking bag. We're serving the goddamn Israel over this shit, and I'm just about flipping had it. I'm going to come unglamed in a minute here over it.
Yeah. But the other reason that I wasn't as mad about it as I think that I should have been was because the America that the original Iwo Jima flag raising picture represented is long gone. We are not that America anymore. We're not the America of the greatest generation. We're not the America that stormed the beaches of Normandy and brought democracy and freedom to Europe. We're not even the America that just played the long game and outlasted the Soviets. We are an America that is coming to the bottom of the downward hill, unfortunately. And
how many Iraqis got killed?
hmm.
How many Iraqis died since we've been there? Over 1 million. And that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Hello? We're the fucking bad guys, dude. And it's not us. It's not me. Not you. It's not even our military. They're just, they're blind to the whole thing too. Right? And I hate to use the excuse to just following orders. It's the excuse in history. Man, that's happening. Right? And they've lied to us with the media. They've manipulated the mind of Americans to believe that this is in our best interest, or to believe that these people are our enemies. I don't for a minute believe that a dozen, poorly trained Muslims flew those planes into the towers or into the Pentagon, for God's sake. That's ridiculous. None of the facts add up. We've been played. We've been manipulated. They killed 3 people in those towers to get us to go to war for Israel. And that is, I draw the line at that. Can't tolerate. And the sooner the fact that we have played the role of the bad guy, and it's not us, it's our government, it's our media, it's all these foreign interests that are taking control of everything that feeds the American mind. And we're the bad guys. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, it's a really, really shitty situation when you step back and take a look at it. Like, I was in the Army for just shy of 9 years. We got my buddy over here in the comments, Ed Klinofsky. He was in the Army for I think like 14 years, and he was actually one of the guys that cleaned the Pentagon up after 9/11. So he was in the rubble, like doing that. I don't want to call you out, Eddie, but
that plane struck the accounting office too, the day after they couldn't account for $2 trillion.
mm-hmm.
You got crazy to believe this.
Well, I don't want to get into all of that, but yeah, there is a lot of stuff that is very suspicious.
You or to guys like your friend, I almost joined the military. I got fired up. Oh my God, we're under attack. Let's go kill these people. I thank God I didn't. Can you imagine going over there and dying for some bullshit reason or losing a leg? I feel great pity for so many of my friends who did. And it disgusts me that they've been manipulated like that. That's all it is. We were the greatest nation that's ever existed, and they used that against us.
Yeah, hubris is it's a hard thing to fight against. Definitely.
And manipulation on every level. Wall Street, the media, government. They call it an iron triangle, and you're living in one.
Definitely. Iron triangle is a very, very good way to put it. We got it coming from all angles. So there's another thing that you said earlier that I oftentimes say. I've said it on this show and on our other show an awful lot. And I said that when you said that they're either stupid or they're up to something, I oftentimes say that nobody is this wrong this consistently by accident.
Right. That's exactly right. Look at Afghanistan. You think that was a mistake? They wanted to empower the Taliban and basically hand the country over to China. As I understand it, the Bidens own 10% in some Chinese mining company that's going to be getting all the rare earth materials and all this. Come on. I mean, okay, here's something for you. Here's something I've considered. A crowdfunding campaign called Make Me a Billionaire, and I will use every penny to crush the deep state. I've considered. So we have to do that.
Maybe, you know what? That's one of those things that goes out there and becomes like a viral ad campaign where it's like I heard some story about a guy who did a GoFundMe and it was just like the only thing was give me $1, and he's like I want $1, and something
Yeah.
like 350,000 people just gave him $1 because oh it's funny,
Sure.
ha ha ha, we're gonna give this guy $1 and make him a millionaire,
Oh,
and he
that's
ended
right.
up making out like a bandit.
Except that guy's out there, sitting in a hammock somewhere. Believe me. I've said it for a long time. You've probably heard me say it before. If I had $1 billion, I'd have my own private CIA. Not that I'm a fan of the CIA. This is an example of what I'm talking about. I would have my own private intelligence gathering group. We would get dirt on people and we would bring them to justice one way or the other. It's just that simple.
Kind of like a Pinkertons, only not crooked.
That's right. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. We're a terrible bunch of people. And what is it now? That evolved into some of these security companies out there today. It's the same group of people.
Blackwater?
Whatever. But no. Security companies like the freaking trucks, the armored trucks going around, Brinks or whatever, spawned from Pinkertons. One of those. There was a guy I knew that was one of their ups, and he was explaining to me they evolved from the Pinkertons. And so, not to sound too extreme, right? Because, a lot of this is just a pipe dream venting for all you federal agents out there. No, I don't have $1 billion. No, I don't have an army settled down. But if I had $1 billion, I would use every legal means within my power to set the.
You're kind of cutting out.
And when
Your audio's going in and out pretty
don't.
bad.
I'm in Montana, dude.
Yeah.
What kind of.
Now, one of the guys over here says Wells Fargo might have been the company. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Might have been, maybe. I don't know. I know that the
Google's-
Pinkertons are still around. The Pinkerton Detective Agencies. It still exists. It's out there. They do more security than investigation these days. But as far as I know, they're probably still a bunch of crooks.
Yeah, Google it. You'll figure it out. Not that it matters, but that's what you're dealing with. All this shit we're talking about, and there's we're in one hell of a pickle. We're in one hell of a pickle, and and I'll preach it. The only way to get through it is with God, right? Because it's impossible. What we are dealing with, the odds that we face are impossible, but God is the king of the impossible. So. My encouragement to all of you is to put that, let go of all your anger, all your BS, give it over to God, let go and let him take it and fall wherever. That's where I got I've told you the story.
Yeah. And before we kind of shift gears over into some happier things, maybe if you've got anything new going on over there at Hoplite, but before we get into that,
nope. Other than on before the extremity protection system, we do have the femoral plates now that are available. So I've got shoulder plates. I'm actually going to package them all up together into, as stupid as it sounds, but it's kind of cool too, like the little Mandalorian setup kind of thing. And shin plates and forearm plates, those are in development right now, but like I say, everything moves slowly these days. Getting people to get off their ass and do things in the middle of COVID. They got the COVID excuse, so everything can take forever. Whatever. I want to do these things. I love doing these things, but at the same time, I just don't care. What I really care about is trying to create a future for my children. As cool as all that other stuff is, I'm in no rush because once the shin plates are done, once the forearm plates are done, I've done everything that I came to do. Right? I came into the body industry for a couple of reasons. Number one, develop things nobody's ever seen. Shoulder plates, femoral plates, shin, forearm, full body system. There's other parts to it that I'd love to tinker around with, but all things considered, I'm not even going to bother. All the heads-up displays and helmets and biological monitoring systems and all of that good stuff, like a full $5 million, sure, let's do it. But that, I'm going to focus on building myself a fortress home and trying to make a future for my family and being ready to send to French Polynesia if I, God's sake, because I'm getting out of harm's way. They will come out, I promise you. Revelation 8, my people will come out. But I may stay and die in the rubble left. That's calling. That's my destiny, and that's fine. But I don't want to see that happen to everybody. So I urge you guys out there, count the cost, figure out where you're at in this world, and make preparations to maybe get the hell out of the country.
Yeah,
Now,
there's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of places that are worth going to anymore. I've always said that when you have people at the higher echelons of power that are saying things like, "Oh, we need to do this more like Scandinavia. We need to do this more like Great Britain," and I'm like, if you like those systems, you can go to those systems and have what you want over there. Because if here changes to there, there's no here anywhere else in the world for people who like here to go to. This is it. There is no other America. There is no other place like this that has the various combination of things that make America America. So if you like Scandinavia, go to Scandinavia. If you like England, go to England. I like America the way that America is. Please don't change it. And that's unfortunately something that falls on deaf ears.
Yeah. Maybe the way that it was, not so much the way that it is. But
yeah,
it's a sad state of affairs, man. You really gotta step back, take a breath, and figure out where you want to be in all of this. I'm here in Montana for a reason, because I see this as sort of the last stand for those original American ideals to preserve that portion of the republic. But the more I look around, the more I see these people who are, waving their little blue line flags and their little Israel flags, and they think that they're being good patriots. Man, you bump, because that ain't gonna work.
Yep. That is unfortunately the place that we find ourselves at right now. And for anybody out there who may take umbrage at Lyman bringing up the Bible and prophecy and things like that, I've said it to Ben in a previous episode, and I'll say it again right now, that it doesn't matter if you believe in any of that, or if I believe in any of that, or if anybody else believes in any of that. The people in power believe in it, and they take it very seriously. The only difference between people... What's that?
And they're on the other side of it.
Exactly. The only difference between people like me and Lyman and them is that they see the things laid out in the book of Revelations as a roadmap to bring a certain someone into existence.
Right.
And they are
That's right.
hurtling towards that goal at breakneck speed.
And people have accused me of being anti-Semitic because I don't bow down to Israel, but I'll tell you something. I worship the King of the Jews. And what he said in Revelation 2:9 and Revelation 3:9, he repeated it twice. Beware those who call themselves Jews but do lie. They are the synagogue of Satan. And you got all these people in Israel. Man, they got a Sesame Street show over there talking about Jesus burning in hell and boiling in excrement. These people are the furthest thing from God's people that they possibly could be. Sure, the reestablishment of Israel is part of the prophecy. It doesn't mean that God's on their side. It doesn't mean that they're on his side. And I get it. A lot of people think, oh, this guy's a jerk for talking about the Bible. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you what I think, what I feel, and you can make that what you want. But I wouldn't be doing you a service if I didn't give you the real me and the real things that I believe in. I think it's just part of the whole package. Take it or leave it. And, I'll stand by those convictions. I'll die for those convictions. Somebody was telling me there was a Reddit thread talking about me saying that I was, crazy Christian and all this stuff. But at the same time, they're like, but you know what? He really believes it. So you got to respect it. Well, you know what? Here I am, ready to die for it. And there is no greater demonstration of faith. I promise you that.
And there we have it, folks. We're running up on an hour right now, and the audio keeps kind of cutting out back and forth. So I think this is where we are going to call it a night. Our guest, once again, for those of you who just got in here kind of late, is Lyman Bishop, owner of Hoplite Armor, former gubernatorial candidate up there in Montana, and just all around really interesting guy. So thank you everybody for showing up tonight. The comments, as usual, were pretty lit. Thank you everybody who jumped in on that. You can go to hoplitearmor.com, get yourself some plates and a helmet and all the other goodies that you need to stop people from poking holes in you. You can go to Rhodes, the number 2, liberty.com to pick up some of our t-shirts and coffee mugs and all of the other fun little things that we just kind of do on the side there. And you can go to think-liberty.com to check out our network's other podcasts or check out our back catalog, or you can go on YouTube. A lot of you are already there because we got kicked off of Facebook for a term of service violation. Dipshits. Thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. For me, Hobbs, and for Ben and for Lyman, thank you. Y'all have a